Volcanoes can, of course, be very dangerous, destructive, and potentially deadly, but sometimes they can also provide incredible learning opportunities and a chance for communities to engage with geoscience. And so today I'm very, very excited to talk about some of these topics. I'm joined by Jorge Montalvo, who's joining us from Iceland. He's a geoscience communicator and also a school science teacher. Hello, Jorge. How are you doing today?
Hello, Sam. I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation.
No problem. Thank you for joining me on this episode of VolcaKnowledge today. This is really, really exciting. I know there's a lot of topics that we want to discuss here. But before we begin, it would be great to hear some about your background, where you've got to where you are today, and some of the things you've encountered along the way to do with volcanoes or just geoscience in general.
All right. I was actually born in South America, in Colombia, back in the 80s. There I studied. I started studying. After I finished my high school, I started studying geology at the National University. However, I always wanted to go into volcanology, but the main focus on that particular university was more, oil and gas and mining. At some point, since I was 16, I always dreamt of coming to Iceland, and then at some point during my time at the university in Colombia, then I got the chance to come here. And in the beginning, it was going to be only for a year, but then I decided to just finish my degree here, continue into an MPed degree, which is a Master's of Pedagogy. I don't know if that's pronounced correctly.
Yes.
Masters of Pedagogy in Geology. And after that, I just went on to get the Masters of Science in Geology with a special focus on analysis of volcanic hazards. So I've been working quite a lot, or I worked a lot with Hekla volcano, the infamous Hekla. And then after my Masters of Science, then I decided to try and do a PhD in Colombia on social volcanology. Why there? Well, because among others, one event, the Nevado del Ruiz volcanic eruption in 1985, and the destruction of Armero and all that stuff, was one of the, let's say, events that inspired me to actually go this way. Again, because in my opinion, of course, the eruption and the Lahar couldn't have been prevented, but the death of those 20,000, 21,000, 25,000, I don't know, nobody knows for sure the number of people, that could have been prevented. And how could have been prevented? Well, by engaging in social volcanology, in talking about and helping people be prepared, helping people understand better the events at hand, or the events that could happen. And sad to say, most places are still not quite ready yet. I mean, they still suffer by lack of information and so on and so forth.
Yes, and I guess it's not necessarily a lack of physical scientific information about the volcanoes or the volcanic processes. It's actually the community engagement and the community education. So I think that's a really nice point to jump into. When I think the general public might hear the word volcanology or volcanologist, they imagine maybe that person in the silver suits rappelling down into a lava lake to collect samples, or somebody there, melting samples in the lab and doing analysis. But but volcanology falls under so many different facets and different disciplines and skill sets. And you've just mentioned one phrase right there, social volcanology. So what exactly, is there an actual, is there a set definition, a set term of what social volcanology actually is?
Perhaps someone might actually have a better definition, or maybe they have already on their see, this is what I was hoping not to happen, orðabók. a dictionary. Sorry,
Mm.
I tend to remember. Yeah, I forget some words in one language and then pop up in another one. In their dictionary, maybe in a dictionary, someone has social volcanology has this particular definition. However, in my opinion, social volcanology, it is just a fairly new facet in volcanology where we try to help people understand better the processes at hand, or the processes that could affect them, and with aims of helping them be better prepared. Because one of the things, for example, that I learned from the time I was doing my PhD in Colombia is that, at least in South America, a lot of people are way too dependent on institutions, right?
Mm.
And in my opinion, it is better that they actually understand what can happen and that they plan themselves what to do in order to protect themselves or save themselves in case of. So basically, that would be my definition. Uh, a way to convey the scientific information to the general public in order for them to increase their awareness, their knowledge about volcanic processes. That leads also to a better preparations to face future eruptions.
Yes, of course, because it's not the case that no, the people shouldn't be listening to the institutions, because of course that's where the accurate scientific data and the latest information comes from. But as you say, you need people to be able to understand those on their own terms, take away that information, and be able to digest. Okay, so what does that mean for me as an
Mhm.
individual? Because obviously, institutions that put out these statements, if it's something about a recent hazard, it doesn't apply to every single individual that message goes out to. So people need to have a base level of knowledge and education that they can then make their own assessments from.
Right, but then in a certain way, this also goes for us as the scientific community. Why? Because for the most part, geoscientists or scientists in general, they cannot convey information,
Mm-hmm.
especially to the general public. So we we rejoice ourselves, and we're always happy when we have to go, or we have the chance to go to a conference somewhere, because everybody talks the same language. you know we can go super detailed, blah blah blah, how the certain, this type of wave affected and how everything was shaking, or how this mineral that you found gives you all the information about where this melt is coming from. But to the general public, this information is worth nothing. Doesn't say anything, right?
Yeah.
And I understand. Again, working with people can be tough, can be challenging. You need to find different ways to actually convey the same information, even though you think that you can reach one person. If you reach one person, you probably lose 10. And see, because as you were
Yeah.
saying, make it relevant for each individual. You cannot make it, relevant for each individual, because some people don't have the same understanding. But in for what I've seen, a lot of geoscientists, they prefer not to touch that thing because it's too hard. It's way too hard to, you know, to convey. It's better just to publish a bunch of papers, and then that's it, rather than go and talk to this, I don't know, indigenous person who might understand the world from a different way, in a different way.
Yeah,
See what I
it's
mean?
yeah, so exactly. It's I guess there's a question that comes into that of when you're educating, when you're potentially educating these people, exactly. Oh, I've lost my thought there on that. But I
It
guess,
happens.
yes, I guess one thing that really interesting that sticks out to me as well is you chose to follow down this path, um, and you came to Iceland with a sense and urgency to come and do something to do with volcanoes, but you actually went through a pedagogical route by doing a
Yes.
master's in pedagogy as opposed to jumping straight into a scientific master's. that I guess maybe most people would kind of follow as maybe the general route, but you actually decided to go into this from an educational standpoint very early on.
In a way, it was not necessarily my own decision. The thing is that I just grabbed it as an opportunity.
Okay.
To be honest, I was actually applying for a master's in geochemistry because I was interested in the processes and all that stuff that had to do with volcanoes. But at the same time, I was actually very much interested in geothermal activity and everything that had to do with the production of energy from a geothermal perspective. But then that thing did not quite work well, and I didn't know what to do. And one of my former teachers, he said something to me that when he said it, I was like, "How dare you?" He said, "Well," he told me one day, because we met and we started chatting, and I told him I don't know what to do. He said, "Well, you know what? You're not very good with rocks, but you're very good with people. So why don't you go and why don't you start doing some teaching, training, and stuff like that?" I was like, "How dare you?" I was like, "What an a-hole!" But then that sentence, "You're not very good with rocks, but you're very good with people," kind of resonated. I mean, I am not that bad with rocks. I was, even though I did my bachelor's degree here in Iceland at the time, I didn't speak any Icelandic. My grade point average was exactly the same as the rest of my peers. Just I'm not that.
You're just
I am
reinforcing
not that. Yeah, I am not that dumb. So I decided to actually go and see what was this thing about teaching. So I jumped into it, and then as I was doing that, I started seeing the potential for it. And then I started thinking, like I can actually, help from the geological part, but using the techniques and stuff like that from the teaching part. So that is why I ended up having a master's of pedagogy, but right. And for my thesis, I actually wrote a hazard assessment and risk mitigation for Hekla, but directed to tourists.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, and for example, I mean, obviously, I cannot. I mean, I would love to get credit for that, but I will never get it. However, something that I wrote on my thesis had been put into practice nowadays, and it's the fact that I wrote that was back in 2010, I think. The thing about alerting all the mobile phones close to the towers near these volcanic systems.
Right. Okay.
They have started using that near Hekla, but more importantly, they did that in Fagradalsfjall. So in 2021, as soon as you enter a certain area near Fagradalsfjall, you would get a text message. You will get an SMS.
Yes.
Alerting you, like, "Hey, you're blah blah." I mean,
not the usual text that you get elsewhere in the world.
no, but and nowadays, if you get close to Hekla, you get a text message also saying like, "Hey, you're in the vicinity of Hekla. Hekla is an active volcano. Blah blah blah. Blah. Just be aware that it can erupt at any moment." And so, I don't know, perhaps, and I know. See what I mean? I used my geology knowledge in order to actually help people be better prepared. Why Hekla? Because Hekla, it's one of the characteristics of Hekla is that she doesn't show any signs of impending eruptions except somewhere between 25 and 80 minutes prior to the eruption.
Right.
So if you're nearby, that's very little time for you to actually react. But if you are aware,
Yeah.
then that would be enough time actually, or at least just to get away. See what I mean?
Awareness is key. It's something that's already in someone's mind then if they're in that vicinity, rather than spending those first few moments of what's going on, what do I do, where are we? If you've
Yeah, yeah.
already even just given some people something that sits at the back of their mind, something for them to think about. Oh, okay, we're in this
Mhm.
area. I'm going to, open up my phone and just have a little bit of a read about this. I hadn't heard of this volcano before. When did it last
Mhm.
erupt? What kind of eruptions does it have? Questions that maybe not. I say that as if everybody will think that, but some people would do.
But as a matter of fact, and now, that also coming into the other stuff that I'm doing right now, not only being a school teacher, but also working as the geologist and science communicator at the Lava Center. I mean, this is something that we actually make a lot of emphasis on. And a lot of people used to come to to Lava Center asking like, hey, because Lava Center is fairly close to Hekla. So if you were driving nearby, you would get the message. As a matter of fact, I got the message once when I was already in the Lava Center. I was inside the Lava Center. I just, I think I was telling somebody about Hekla, and I got the message.
Ha.
Yeah, and so a lot of people were coming, like, hey, I got this message from Hekla. How worried should I be? Oh, you shouldn't be any worried. As a matter of fact, that prompted me to actually go and write an article that we put on the Lava Center webpage. And so we would just refer, if you're interested, if you're afraid, first of all, you shouldn't be afraid. I mean, yeah,
Yeah. It's
you should be
awareness, not a
prepared.
warning.
Exactly, exactly. And there, I finished that article by saying, like, if things were more, happening actually, the tone of the message that you will receive would be much different. Yeah.
Yes,
So.
absolutely. But when I lived in Hawaii, we had a similar kind of text message system. I think it's across all of the USA actually. For any natural events happening nearby, if there's flooding, flash flooding, severe snowstorms, they're basically alerts and warning
Yeah.
system used by the Emergency Management Agency. And there was an instance of one. We would get them a lot of the time in Hawaii for maybe like flash floods or heavy rainfall. And then there was that one instance, I remember this clearly, 8:40 a.m. on the 13th of January 2018, we got a missile warning alert that a missile was inbound for Hawaii in the next 15 minutes. It was
Holy
a
moly.
mistake. It was a
Yeah.
mistake that this message had been sent out over the system, but the wording and the tone of that text alert of this, literally, this is not a drill. There is an incoming missile. Please seek immediate shelter. That message was to the point. And so those words, that brought a community to react instantly. But I can imagine these early awareness ones are maybe just a bit more by the way you're entering this zone. But it doesn't really go beyond that. So having that extra information for people is very useful.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we, at least at the Lava Center, we're trying to do. Like, in a way, you can. I mean, I usually joke with that. I don't know if it's going over the top, but I usually say that, yeah, the Lava Center is mostly a tourist trap. But since I'm here, I am trying to make it also educational and give information. So that's what we try to do. And 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 why do we need to do it? Because we live in Iceland. In Iceland, a lot of people love to say, on average, we get an eruption here every 4 years, on average. So it means that, yes, we have 30 volcanic systems, active volcanic systems, meaning that, of course, the chances that we will get an eruption are actually very good. So 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 a lot of people get very excited, but at the same time they don't know much about that, and then they think that, for instance, one earthquake, a big earthquake, will trigger an eruption. And so when they come, they're like, oh, I see that there's a lot of activity in Katla, and we're like, oh well, I mean, yeah, but that seems fairly normal. There's nothing that we see that are actually. So we use the facilities in Lava Center to actually try to educate people a little bit, because it is necessary. Again, well, in this case, we can't think of. I mean, we have to think of these people that come to lava as a different community, just a passing community, a fluctuating community. So this is something that I would love to research further. What would happen if there's a large eruption on, for instance, during the summer, that we have loads and loads of tourists? How would we react as locals, and how would they react as visitors?
Yes,
So
because I guess, yeah, as you said, you've got two very different communities you're dealing with on a very regular basis. I imagine you actually have quite a lot of local community engagement at the lava center as well as the tourists.
not as much as I wanted.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, if you think of, the actual local community has also to be divided into different communities. Why? Because here in Iceland we have a lot of immigration from different parts. So you have the locals, the Icelanders, and who think they know everything there is there to know about geology, which is bull crap. And I know that because I am a high school teacher, and these kids, they think they know everything because their parents told them, and then you go and see, and they don't know. They confuse a lot of things. But anyway, let's not go into that. So you have, let's say, the Icelanders, who are more aware of the volcanic history and all that stuff. But then you have the immigrants who have probably never heard about volcanic eruption. They have never felt an earthquake before. So the approach with this community has to be completely different than the approach with the local community, right?
Yeah.
But they are intertwined. And so in this case, for the most part, the easiest way, it has been saying it in different languages, right? But that's not enough. It has to go farther than that, because again, you can say something in Icelandic and blah blah blah, but they're a bit more aware because of the whole history.
Yeah.
Volcanic activity is embedded in our history, right? As an Icelander, I am an Icelandic.
Yeah.
So it is embedded in our history and in our culture as well. But it's not the same case for, some Polish family that came a few years ago.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. The level of background and education, and also, as you say, that's almost hereditary knowledge that's passed down through decades and generations as well, particularly so in Iceland,
Right.
for the amount that's been documented there over the years as well. So, your role at the Lava Center, I think we've almost just kind of like we've jumped a little bit here. So, the Lava Center is essentially a large exhibition tourist center for people to engage in learning about not just volcanoes but the geological history of Iceland, earthquakes as well, I imagine.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. For the most part. And one emphasis that at least I love to make is that in there, people with the exhibition, they can actually see and hopefully appreciate how unique Iceland is, because the geology of Iceland, it is, I mean, probably is not that unusual, but the fact that Iceland exists, that's the unusual part.
Yeah.
Because, because where we are located, you know, Iceland is, I usually say to the tourists, and they always laugh about it. I say Iceland is a freak of nature. Iceland shouldn't exist, but here we are. And a lot of people, they read everywhere like, oh yeah, Iceland's on, where the two plates separate and blah blah blah, and everybody knows like Iceland is a hotspot, but they don't see the connection.
Yeah, both of those together.
So exactly, and so I usually tell people like, oh, just think of this as a sort of a formula. A plus B equals Iceland. Remove A, what do you have? B or something. So, and then we can establish whether B is the mantle plume or an A is the divergent plate boundary. So take away the plate boundary. What do you have? Just a mantle plume. Okay. Do you think that Iceland will be Iceland with just the mantle plume? They'll go, I don't know. Okay, think about Hawaii, for instance. How is Hawaii? And how can Hawaii be different from, or how is Hawaii different from Iceland? A lot of people were like, I don't know. So then I go, how many islands do you have in Hawaii? Oh, they have a bunch. I never remember how many there are. Like 7, 9, 10. You've been there.
Yeah.
I haven't. And then I said, yeah, and they're all pretty much on a straight line, blah, blah, blah. Here you have one massive one, right? So now take away the mantle plume, and then you have only the divergent plate boundary. Do you have Iceland again? And they're like, So, I mean, if that's the only thing you have, why don't you have another island down the mid-ocean ridge, the mid-Atlantic ridge? Why the only place where you see a massive island like that right on top of the mid-ocean ridge is here in Iceland? So they go like, oh, yes, exactly. Because here is the only place where the two things are together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess for a lot of tourists come in that, they know Iceland's a volcanic country and they know it's, one of the most volcanic places in Europe, but these are the details that they don't know, which aren't, absolutely crucial, to their full life experience. But by coming to a place like the Lava Center and talking about these things and talking to someone like you and being guided, it enriches their experience and it allows them to take that into the field if they're then going off on a drive somewhere else, or in the past couple of years if they've gone to see an eruption. It just completely changes their perspective and probably appreciation of what they're seeing.
That's what we, at least me personally, that's what I aim for. And we tend to have loads of visitors from the UK, especially school groups, and a lot of them they it is very funny because I have heard from them like, you blew my mind, mate. Yeah, so it's really funny. It's really funny. So, and a lot of the teachers that come here, sometimes they don't realize the choice or the advantage of having or stopping by at the Lava Center first.
Yes.
And they usually come at the end, and they're like, oh, bollocks, we could have stopped here first, and then the kids would have actually got a better understanding of what they saw in on the rest of the trip.
I was actually going to ask you that, particularly in the last couple of years with the VolcaKnowledge eruptions. Have you normally found people coming before or after they've gone to go and see that experience for themselves? Have they normally arrived and gone straight to the eruption and then come back to maybe Reykjavik for a few days and explored and then come across the lava center? Or have you seen differences in the people that have been before and afterwards?
Not sure how to answer that, but I think we still have both, right? People who come here and then they get pumped and they want to go to Fagradalsfjall and see the eruption, and we're like, yeah, I mean, you can go there, but it is not erupting anymore.
Yeah,
because part of what we see, part of what we actually show at the lava center is it's our own video. We have video there, and the last part of the video is actually footage of Fagradalsfjall.
Yes.
So they're like, did people really get that close? And we were like, yeah, even this guy went that close.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, really? I have to do it. And I'm like, yeah, but hold your horses because it's not erupting anymore. So they're like, okay. I mean, if you still want to go and hike and see the lava field that it formed and see probably some deposits of sulfur and see the black rock that just formed 2 years ago. I mean, go for it.
Yeah, you're seeing some of the youngest rocks on the planet.
Right. Yeah. But then, I mean, I think our role was much more important during the eruption because a lot of people would come and actually, I don't know. Yeah. The thing is that a lot of people underestimate the conditions in Iceland. And the weather here, I mean, here in Iceland, you don't only have to take into consideration whether it's raining or whether what. You have to know the climate itself. And here, in one moment it's sunny, but suddenly you get a lot of wind. And even though your clock or your smartwatch says that it's 10 degrees Celsius, you're like, that's nice. It's all right. I can take it. With the wind chill and all that stuff, it will feel miserable. And a lot of people actually ended up in problems because they overestimated their conditions, their capabilities, and they underestimated the climate. So what we would do was basically kind of like make people aware. Like, I mean, are you used to hiking? Oh no, look, I'm fat and I never do exercise. So then try to avoid it. I mean, you don't want to get in trouble. And part of the hike, as I told you before, it was super steep, and a lot of people actually broke their ankles going up.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So we were trying. So we were educating, but at the same time, like trying to protect people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes, because is there a lot of particularly these last couple of years where there's been these active eruptions where everybody's seen the photos of people getting close with their drones and being able to go and get the selfie with the lava flow right behind them. What safety precautions and information is there upon arrival at these sites? I mean, I guess they're relatively close to communities, so it's not too far to go if needed. But obviously, your job is not health and safety of people going to see these things, but you feel the need to provide the information because maybe I guess it's very difficult to give to people because it's just there, and people could come straight from the airport and drive straight to the location if they wanted to.
Yeah, and a lot of people were doing that actually.
Okay.
And then you learn about this person who were just coming down down from the airplane, still with their sneakers. Then they were trying to hike up and they broke their ankle, broke their leg. So, so there was, I think, enough information provided. So in every single part, you were like, oh, if you want to visit the site of the eruption, go, but look at this page, safetravel.is. Always, and there in that page, there were not warnings, but advisories towards what were the weather conditions. So probably someone from the rescue teams, which were actually volunteers who went there every single day to protect the people. I mean, it is a serious thing, and it is such a serious thing also because here in Iceland, unlike the rest of the world, if there's an eruption, in the rest of the world, everybody goes away from the eruption. In Iceland, everybody goes towards the eruption.
Yeah.
So again, and here we go back to the first topic, social volcanology. We have been lucky so far that we haven't had a massive eruption. Someone might say, oh, what do you mean no massive eruption? What about Eyjafjallajökull? Eyjafjallajökull was not a massive eruption. It just lasted for a long time because of the lava and ice interaction. That's what it caused the problems.
Yeah.
But we haven't had a Laki type of eruption, for instance, some eruption that would actually cause much more disruption here. And if everybody goes towards the eruption, they at least need a little bit of awareness of what they will potentially face if they want to save themselves. Because I know for a fact, civil protection, the police, or the rescue teams, they will not put themselves in danger to come and look for you if you're dumb enough to go and put yourself at risk. Yeah. In Eyjafjallajökull, in Fagradalsfjall, they were there mostly monitoring, precisely to prevent further problems. But it's not, they were not really policing, they were just advising.
Yeah.
And those people who ended up in problems, they had to wait for a long time. If you broke your leg going up the mountain, you had to wait. Once I broke one of my fingers and I had to wait for hours until I got treatment and so on. Imagine how it would be breaking your leg and having to wait for hours to be picked up, hours to go to the hospital, hours to be treated. And so, do you really want to do that?
Yeah.
I told this to a few people that they came to Lava asking for that. So yeah, coming back to your question, usually the information is there. Some people just choose not to follow or choose to ignore. But then again, this is where social volcanology, information, education might actually come in handy.
Exactly, and I think we've covered lots of different ways in which you can go about those, from more tourist engaged stuff to actual social community interaction, going and speaking with people individually and their individual experiences. But it's a very different thing being able to provide the information and knowing that it's being taken on. And I guess that's still one of the big challenges that we face in this kind of field of social volcanology and volcano engagement and communication. And hopefully there are still tools out there that are getting better, the use of social media, the use of museums and exhibits, but there's still never a guarantee that everybody will take on that information.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning social media. Social media can be a brilliant tool. However, in my opinion, it has been used in the wrong way. Let's go back to Fagradalsfjall and the months previous to the eruption. And why do I say that it has been used in the wrong way? Because nowadays everybody thinks they're experts, and they just voice their opinions, and they say, "Well, I read this." Where did you read it? For example, there's a very, very well-known person here that I will not mention his name, but there's a very, he's a bit obsessed with earthquakes and volcanic activity here in Iceland. For some reason, I don't know why, for some reason, one of the reasons actually that all the international media actually quotes him and search for him as if he was an expert, is because he's very vocal. He's very active.
Yeah, big platforms get big attention.
True, but again, he's no expert, and most of the time, the information that he conveys is wrong. But he's taking as an expert, and that is actually very, very dangerous. So social media can be a tool of misinformation as well.
Yeah.
And this is something that we have to, also as a teacher, this is something that I've been trying to teach my students, like, don't believe everything that you actually see on social media. Don't believe everything that you Google. Open the bloody book. The bloody book will give you a bit better information than what you can Google,
Yeah. And as you
right?
say, it almost comes back to one of those original points you said as well about scientists being able to communicate more. So being able to have more scientists to be able to talk about these issues to a wider base, or to a, outside of that level of knowledge that you might do at a conference. So
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
it's an
And
ongoing challenge. It's not easy at all.
not at all, dude. But if we don't do anything, if nobody does more, actually, because for sure things have been done. But for example, if there's an earthquake swarm, why is why the monitoring institutions don't come out and just say something? That no, usually the people who have no idea, but they're still monitoring, but because all the data is actually available to the
Yeah.
public, right? So the public is always monitoring, and as soon as something happens, it is the public, the people who have no idea what the hell's going on, the ones that start informing about it.
Yes, I know that. I think I've talked about this in previous episodes as well. And there's having that bridge in communities. If you've got the public, and then if you have someone who, someone who can reliably translate the information from the institutions, who can then deliver it to the public, because sometimes there's a
Mhm.
trust barrier that needs to be
Right.
overcome between institutions and the public. So if you have those people in the middle, that's the best solution in the way forward. But it's quite difficult sometimes to figure out who those people are, and are they trained up in the right way. So yeah, just kind of touching on a few things there.
Right, right. But again, that bridge needs to be made.
Yeah.
Between scientists and people. I mean, and the trust need to be built. You know, for example, I have a very big example of how things can escalate to a very dangerous level when the trust is completely lost, and you don't do anything to actually bridge that those communities, the scientists and the local communities. The case of Galeras, or the communities around the Galeras volcano in Colombia.
Yes.
Probably you have heard about this.
Yes, I've heard of this.
I actually sort of saw it myself. While I was doing my PhD, I got to have a little bit of contact with the people from the Colombian Geosurvey and the community. And when did that trust was broken? I don't know, but I mean, they were warning me, that because even though I didn't have anything, I was not related to the Geosurvey. I went with them, and they were like, "Oh, try not to talk too much with them because they can be very aggressive." You know, I heard that the people, they dislike so much the people from the Geosurvey that they have even burned their cars, their trucks, when they come and try to talk to them.
Wow. Okay,
And
so very
and
extreme end.
it can, I mean, you could be killed, at least in I think it will be super extreme, but it can happen. Unfortunately, it can happen. Why? Just because you try and bridge that gap, and blah blah blah, but the gap had been destroyed, or the bridge had been destroyed, and the gap has been enlarged, enlarged, enlarged for ages. And why? Because nobody actually care about how they would communicate, how they negotiate, how they provided both knowledge, trust, and a little bit of security for the people. Now, I'm not saying that it's just all the Geosurvey to blame. No, the community needs to calm down a little bit as well. And
Yeah.
and once again, I know that working with people is hard, because they come and start asking or demanding things that you can not provide.
Yes, it's a real challenge, and as you say, it's down to folks like yourself, trying to be in that research in these areas of social volcanology, talking to people, figuring out the ways that people receive their education and their knowledge and the information that they take out with them. And so I think that's a really commendable line of work that you're in, trying to be in that gap and ensure that people have the right information. There's plenty of scientific research going on out there. Of course, we wish there are certain questions and really cool things we wish we were doing, but we do need more focus in this area of understanding how people learn about these things and are educated. And so I think we could probably go on for so long talking about different examples
Oh,
and cases.
definitely.
We could do a series on this topic, absolutely.
Yeah.
But like I
Yeah.
say, it's been really good to talk to you about some of these things. But it would be great to, if there's a particular memory or volcanic moment that's happened at some point in your life that's something quite personal to your journey through the world of volcanoes and people, I guess.
Devoted to volcanoes and people, maybe, but well, I of course I have many, but it's more. It's just more a personal thing,
Okay.
and I have like two major stories that I would love to share with you. One is basically just a reward that I got the day after my birthday. I was writing my thesis, my MPhil thesis, and my supervisor was the infamous Magnus Stumi Gudmundsson. So I had come a bit later than usual to university. I had put my computer, opened it up, and started typing. 5 minutes later or so, he just barged into my office, and he's like, "Hey, we're going on a flight after 5 minutes." I was like, "Holy crap!" Oh yeah, I forgot to mention which year. That was the year 2010.
Yes.
So yeah, so 11th of May 2010. I don't remember the hour. He was like, "In 5 minutes, we have a flight." I was like, "Damn, dude, I don't have a jacket. I don't have my camera. I'm not ready." Well, he drove me home to pick up a jacket and my camera. We went to the airport and we went on the most uncomfortable 2-hour flight of my life because it was such a small plane and we were four big guys. I mean, I'm almost 190 tall, and as you can see, I'm kind of chubby. And the other guys were also fairly big. Again, I was so bloody uncomfortable, but just being able to fly and see with my own eyes the Eyjafjallajökull eruption, it was, priceless.
Yeah.
Priceless. And the other story, it's actually related to, I don't know, like self-dedication or, a challenge that I saw and that I overcome. And that was actually to get to see Fagradalsfjall. Again, because of my big body, let's say, going up to see Fagradalsfjall was quite a challenge for me.
Mm-hmm.
And especially going up the steepest part. Yeah, I would take one step and then slide probably 2 steps, and so on and so forth. But I don't know, when I finally, after a while, that I reached the top, and even before I got to actually see the volcanic eruption, I couldn't help to actually break down in tears because I felt so accomplished, and it was a mixture of accomplishment because I actually climbed that bloody steep part, but also it was, but when I got there, it was, I could almost already start hearing the detonations of the eruption.
Wow. Okay.
So I would like, this is it. I made it. I will get to see Fagradalsfjall eruption.
Every sense just coming in the closer you got to the top, from hits from sound and then probably from smell and then touching eventually the sight of it.
Right. But then of course, because I literally felt that my ankles were gonna break. But I was like, it cannot be that I've come all this way just to quit right now. I was like, screw it, I need to make it. So I started taking like smaller steps until I actually made it to the top. And when I made it to the top, again, I broke down in tears, and my wife came to actually hug me, and we were with two other friends, and then we were just giving a Teletubby hug. The four of us, like, and me like a little big girl crying, and then it was a magic moment when I got to see, when I came all the way and I started seeing the lava field, hearing the kind of like the breaking glass of the advancement of the lava, and it was just magical.
And particularly for all the years that you've been in Iceland, of course, you said at the beginning your journey was to come to Iceland to learn about these things and experience these things. And I guess the Fagradalsfjall eruption was probably one of the most impressive that people could access in decades. So to be able to have that moment is really quite special.
Absolutely. I mean, it was one of those fascinating events because we actually saw it coming.
Yeah, it's a long time.
For a whole year, earthquake after earthquake after earthquake, and then increasing number of earthquakes, and everybody knew that something was going to happen, but we got the confirmation that something was definitely going to happen 3 weeks before the eruption.
Yeah.
So the whole process of like building up, it was like, holy macaroni, it is coming. We're gonna experience something. Now, the downside is that everybody was expecting it to be much longer, but
well, only time will tell. It did resurge for a little bit last year, so who knows when it could join us again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are supposed to be at portals of like new and more or increasing activity.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens in the future. Well, thank you so much for sharing both of those memories. Very, very different stories, but say both of them, say volcanoes, we've said at the very beginning, can be potentially very destructive, but there's also a beauty in the planet as well, and it's the reason why people are attracted to come to these things for tourism. And so being able to share personal memories and experience is also very important for educating others as well. So thank you so much for sharing those, and also for joining us today. Like I say, there's so much we could talk about, but we're going to finish things up here today. So thank you so much, Jorge, for sharing your experiences, your work, and the things that you've done over the years. And so if any of you ever make your way over to Iceland, you know what to do first. Where's the first place you go?
I don't know, Lava Center, maybe.
Yeah, you go to the Lava Center.
Obviously.
Yeah, you go to the Lava Center straight away. So if any of you are interested, I'll put some information and links about the Lava Center in there so you can see things for yourself and already plan your trip to Iceland. So thank you so much, Jorge, for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Sam, for this invitation, this opportunity to share, to talk about this topic that I think I'm very passionate about, and yeah, I love to talk about volcanoes and about all these things, and yeah, thank you for having me here.
Great, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.